We're going to have a financial discussion, and on this side we have the debit or cash group, and over on this side we have the credit group, and we are going to start with the credit group.
Okay, so our first point about why credit cards are better is that they offer amazing reward programs, whether it be that you're gaining points like airplane points, so you're receiving free flights, or you're getting cash back, or also if you sign up for a card with a certain company, you can also get merchandise back from them. You can't really do this with debit cards, and if you're putting tons through your credit card and making sure to make those payments, then you're essentially getting something for nothing.
But then again, it's hard not to get caught up in getting too many cards and then getting too many credit and then not knowing where to pay. So you really have to be careful with only getting one card for your purchases, and sometimes that's not obvious because there's also lots of credit cards offer great stuff, and you just can't say yes to all of them.
Our second point was that credit cards are really beneficial in the case of emergencies. So if you're ever overseas or something and you have a situation where you need to suddenly put down a large amount of money, you can't do that with a debit if you don't have that money in the bank, but you can do that with a credit card. And then the second half of that was for financial security. So if you're ever a victim of credit card fraud or anything where someone's trying to steal your money, if they do it on a credit card, then you'll have absolutely no problem getting that reimbursed and getting that dealt with through the credit card company.
Yeah, I think that we would completely agree with that, but just making sure that you would be able to still pay off if you had an emergency and you had to pay a large sum of money, still having enough money to be able to pay that off, I think would be something that people have to be wary of when they use their credit cards.
And so our third point was looking at having a positive credit, because a lot of times later in life, if you want to take a mortgage, school loan, or a car payment, you need a good credit to be able to do so. So by being wise and establishing a good credit, it's really important for future ventures that you're taking on.
And obviously that's important to build up good credit, but you still need to just be careful with your purchases and with how many cards you have, and just make sure that you are staying on top of all of your payments and bills, and sometimes that becomes really challenging, so you just have to keep everything organized and stay on top of it. So
as for our first point of debit cards, I think as a kid, when you get the debit card, you're much more responsible with your money afterwards, because the only money you have access to is the only money you put into, so you can never go over the money you have, and you can't go into credit, and then you don't have to pay extra money just because you don't use money you don't have, and you're not borrowing any money from the future. So I think that's a really valid point for debit cards. It really makes you responsible for your own money and learn the value of your own money.
I think that it definitely makes sense, especially for younger kids. It's good to start that way and establish that, but as you get older, there are instances where credit cards can be really beneficial. So as long as you're brought up and you know the consequences and you're able to learn and you know how to correctly use them, and I think later on as you get a bit older, they can be extremely beneficial.
The other point that we thought of, especially in the case of children, is that it's a lot easier to get a debit card than it is a credit card. You don't have to prove that you've had positive credit to be able to get a debit card, and parents are much more likely, I think, to sign a waiver saying that their child can have a debit card versus a credit card, just because there's less consequences when they use their debit card than if they were to overuse their credit card.
I think that just speaks to the importance of learning how to manage your money on a debit system or cash system, and then once you are able to do that, once you're over 18 and can get your own credit card, moving forward into the credit card territory where you can take advantage of other things that are offered, assuming you've learned what you should have leading up to that with the debit system at a young age.
And so our third point was that when you have a debit card, it becomes impossible, more or less, to go into debt, and especially when you're a kid, you have the money in the bank, and it's your own money, so you can see how much money you have and you can take that money out, but you can't go over that amount because that's not how much money you have in the bank. So it prevents you from going into debt and paying interest to the bank.
And I think that's great as well, but there is some circumstances which credit cards allow you, if there is an emergency, if you don't have that money available to you, you're able to get access to something in the future so that you can pay for it in case you don't have it already available to you.